I got a 40,000 under market value. I bought in the recession when everybody was scared and fearful, and I just rinse and repeated that. I have lived that same lifestyle from 21 to 27, and that's what led me to become a millionaire at 26.
2 decades of experience in real estate, owning a property portfolio which includes single dwelling homes, multiple HMOs, care homes.
I started saving between £3,000 to £4,000 a month because I was still living that lifestyle of just very minimal income. All right, nobody wants to get up at 3 in the morning and everyone wants to start at 5. I would just ride my bike at 3 o'clock in the morning and say I'm here, and nobody else wanted to wake up. And when it comes to building work, yeah, I was the labourer at one stage mixing muck, but now because I know what it entails and how long it takes, because I've been through all of this myself, I'm very good at project managing. Could clear £1 million in side hustle if I wanted to, but can I confidently say I can execute it? No. So why would I do it? Last Sunday I was just pouring my mum's ashes into the water, and I thought, wow, never get attached. Your name is not even yours at the end of the day. One day we're all going to be turned into dust.
Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to say that Property People has been going for over 5 years, and I've come to know that over 71% of you still haven't hit that subscribe button. So please, I ask a small favor. If you could take a moment and hit that subscribe button, I'd be ever so grateful. And in return, I assure you that I will do everything in my power to make this podcast and YouTube channel the best it could possibly be. We'll get bigger and better guests, and we'll go more places together. Now, back to the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Property People. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Mr. Sean Land. How are you today, Sean?
Yeah, I'm really, really good, Sam. Thanks for the invite, and I'm really excited about today and what nuggets that are going to come out, because even I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Well, I've got a good idea. I've got a very good... I've been doing a little bit of research around... and we've spoken before as well. We met at the Property and Entrepreneur Summit that Paul Stapleton puts on.
Yes.
And we had a quick chat there. And I think you're going to give loads of value because you've done some amazing stuff. So we're going to deep dive because we weren't able to do it then. It was only a short form. This is a bit longer. But with 2 decades of experience in real estate, banking and entrepreneurship, you've become a seasoned real estate expert, owning a property portfolio which includes single dwelling homes, multiple HMOs, care homes. You focus on adding value along the way, creating long-term growth. You've got your own podcast, which we were just discussing before we kicked off. And you're just a generally very nice... I speak to people in and around the industry, and everybody always says good things about you. And you've got a property portfolio in excess of 10 million. So well done. I can't wait to find out a little bit more and deep dive into all those little bits and pieces. But I always like to start at the beginning, which is... who were you at school? What type of person were you? Were you as friendly as you are today? Were you as motivated as you are today? Did you always think you were going to be in property? Were you mischievous, studious? Were you academic?
So, yeah, if we're going back right to the start, it's a really interesting one because I'm the polar opposite of the man I am today. All started in Stratford, East London. I went to normal primary school. Primary school was... quite normal, average. I wasn't Mr. Popular, but people are not that cruel in primary school as they can be in secondary. Park Primary was my school. I used to just walk it. It was the next street over, and I always used to come home for home dinners. I didn't know it at the time, but then 5 years of going home for home dinners really did affect my sort of social skills, and it came quite apparent when I went to secondary school. I'd always blame everybody else. Why am I being treated this way? But maybe I didn't know the way I was acting. Everything that the rules and regulations at home is very different when you're in a social place. You can get away with heaven and earth with your brothers and sisters or be treated like the golden child, but the world doesn't treat you like that. You're just another number, or you're just fat boy if you're a bit overweight, which is me. And in secondary school, I'd say and do what I wanted, very innocently, as you do, but you get judged quite heavily on the things that you say or the things that you do. So my name was Fat Boy, and people always wanted to give me a punch in the mouth or the face, or wee on you when you're on the
So like proper bullying?
Proper bullying. Like,
wow.
It was like every day was, how do I survive today?
Holy shit.
Every single day it was like somebody will grab you in a headlock for no reason. Somebody will kick you from behind. I remember finishing school one day, going to the toilets, and about 6 boys came in, and there was no way out. Like, it was
No
literally the ghetto from my point of view and my eyes. Somebody consistently nagging on you, why you're not good enough, why you shouldn't be alive, why why do you even exist. But it was just that environment. I was going to school with cancel estate kids. They had a hierarchy where they probably were shotting, which is probably selling drugs, and they had their elders, and they were getting bullied the same way, so they wanted to take it out on other people, and I was that guy. So it was a situation where it was totally different to my home life. I had a loving mum, a loving father. My dad owned a corner shop where I used to like hanging out there, because adults treated me very differently. They said, oh, he's a mature young man. Oh, he helps you stock up the shelves and work out your VATs and markups. But at school, you were just hated because I wouldn't play Sega or Nintendo. I didn't know what they were talking about. I wasn't into watching football. So I didn't know who won what game. I didn't have them sort of social skills. So you were just picked on because you had nothing. No one had anything in common with me. And when I spoke about my dad's shop, they were like, oh, that's boring. Like, what the hell are you doing over there? So I just felt very out of place, really, at that young age. And there was a place where I was nurtured and cared for and loved in the shop, and there was a place where I was just bullied and kicked and punched. So automatically I was more attracted to being around my dad's business, around my uncle, seeing what he did, and also around my cousins. But I knew what I wanted in life, and I didn't want to be treated like a piece of crap,
Unbelievable. I mean, the ability to have that perspective to say that these are just council estate kids that probably are getting bullied at home or whatever, and they're just acting it out again, and you just happen to be that person. Have you had to do some anything kind of soul searching, any kind of therapy, or speak to people to get that perspective? Because that's a very mature perspective to have as well.
Sure. I mean, life's all about understanding people. Nobody does something because they just want to. It's a situation or something that's happened, some sort of trauma in their life that's happened, and it's just the dominoes effect. Everybody needs to release that, and you might just be at the end of that. So I never judge anybody when somebody shouts at me, looks at me. Even siblings could be, not happy about certain situations that you're in, or why you've achieved so much where other people didn't get opportunities. But you just have to say, what is that person going through? Why are they behaving that way? Because if they had all the money in the world, they wouldn't even care about that situation now. So, you have to understand other people. So, sorry, what was the original question?
Well, that helps. I think that helps you. The fact that you've got that ability to help to understand other people, I think it helps you in business. And we'll start getting to that. But just before I go there, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, so I've got 2 older sisters, a younger sister, and we're all like a year apart. And then I've got my little brother who's just turned 30. But Sanjay, he has autism, so he sometimes lives with us, sometimes doesn't, and he's got carers and stuff like that as well. So he's got a very different world and different responsibilities to I have. So
you've had a very, very interesting childhood and a very interesting upbringing, filled with a family, loving mum and dad, and you decide that you want to work and spend most of your time in the shop. And at this point, you're kind of learning about retail, I guess, why certain things are shelved in certain spaces. Why? I mean, because when I think of what I know about the retail, and certainly in kind of Tesco's and stuff, to get shelf space, it's really kind of valuable. Were you thinking that did you and your dad used to think of things that scientifically, of like how we're going to place things out and what's the customer experience as they walk in the door?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's all about the customer experience. Somebody's walking into your shop, they're walking into your life. There was no separation between like work balance, home life, all of that. My dad was in the shop like literally, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And then after, they worked at a little bit of shift work with him and my uncle, where one of them were able to go home at 7 o'clock in the evening to have a night with the family. And that was a luxury for us. And if you wanted to spend time with dad, go to the shop and go and help him at the same time. So there was no work-life balance. So it changed my perception of what work was. Hence why I can work on a Sunday. I'll do a site visit with a bunch of my students on a Sunday and not think nothing of it, because it's just a day that I'll work. I'll take Monday off, So the flexibility on that side. My dad would always say, he'd always remember people's faces, and he'd always remember what they wanted. And that made people just keep coming back to the shop. Even though like Safeways at the time, I don't know if you remember Safeways.
Yeah, of course.
Now you have Morrison's, but people had a choice just to walk 10 minutes down the road and get things, a lot cheaper. But people believed in the community shop and used to come to see my dad. All right, Jeff, how you doing? How's your day? They used to come in for a chat. We always knew, everybody's names. And certain customers, he'll be like, oh, you like that drink, do you? I'll bring that in specially for you. And he'd put that line, because he knows that customer will come in. And then he'll be like, oh, he'll buy his wine, but he'll always want 10 cut silver as well at the same time. And then he'll pick a couple of other things. And now we're quite loyal to him. So that sort of taught me about customer relationships. It taught me about interpersonal skills, about how to speak to people, how to mirror people, because there was Tracy, who was just like the nice lady who took us kids to school and not the most wealthiest. And then there was like, Richard who'd be on his way to central London to a high flying job. So you need to know how to talk to these people and not offend them. Same time I learned about LIFO, FIFO, accounting practices, first in, first out, about stock rotation, about, how to bring the milk in the morning for what the milkman's chained outside, to when we did the newspapers, down to the fruit and veg, where certain bananas will be going out of date. So you'd offer it at half price to people to just get them out, so that there's not them little fruit flies hanging around. Down to when my dad would be giving me the invoice and go, look, I want you to work this out, put 20% VAT and put 35% markup divided by how many things in the case. So I learnt them skills. Amazing. When school wasn't teaching me that. Between 8 years old to 13 years old, I learnt that whole stuff, and I thought this was pretty normal. I thought it was like everybody was learning this, but now later down the line, I've realized, wow, that was a real special training that I got from 35, 40 years experience.
Because that's not many people have that privilege. And it sounds like you're very close to your parents.
Yeah, very, very close to my parents. My parents are very different. My father is Army General. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he is like the man, whatever he says goes, and he is coachable. Like he will take you into consideration, but it might take him a day or two to think about things, and then come back to you. But he's very raw. And the thing that I've learned about him is he doesn't know how to soften things up, but whatever he says always comes out true.
Yeah.
So he'll be like, you're going to get yourself in trouble with X, Y, Z, or you're going to put yourself in this situation. I'm like, no, I won't. You don't know what I've learned. And then it always comes back. So it just makes me realize that no matter whatever history book you learn, it is black and white.
Sometimes the delivery is not quite there.
Delivery's not quite there, but once you get him, you get him, and he's one of the best people to have in your corner. And I suppose he's been that man, that right-hand man on the back of breathing down my neck. What you buying next? What are you doing with your money? Show me your bank account. What's going on here and there? And I used to think it was a big invasion of my privacy, but today I realize, do you know what? I just had a personal finance advisor absolutely for free.
He means well. He's experienced, knowledgeable. As you said, he's mostly right. I've been accused of not having the best delivery. Like I say, we agree and you're right in the end, but just deliver it in a better way sometimes. And it's a skill that you have to kind of acquire over time, especially depending on who you're speaking to. Some people take information in different ways. Like if you're in the army, kind of like it's life and death. So you doesn't matter how I deliver the message, you just listen to the message. But I think when you're in the business or the work environment or the home and family, you maybe can mix things up a little bit. So what was the move into property?
So I just knew that once I started earning money, so I did basically, I'd worked in a cash and carry at the age of 13, and I started getting my wages in this brown packet with a pay slip inside. The notes would be there, and the coins would be for me, and the money would be for mum. And then I realized multiple streams of income where I started loading cars, and I thought £5 a car, 8 cars, £40. That's more than my £3 wage an hour for 10 hours, 30 quid. So I learned that I could keep that money and buy my Nike trainers, which I wasn't able to get. I didn't have to start sharing my dad's clothes. Whenever I wanted something nice, I could go and buy it myself. And then at 16, I decided to get my own job in terms of I went and worked for McDonald's. And I used to do 3 days in college, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, Sunday, I used to work at McDonald's because that belief system was already there that we work every single day, no matter what. And so I paid for my own university. I didn't want no debt. I stayed at home. And I was very fortunate to have that because then I had no debt hanging over me. And by 21, 6 months before I even graduated, my grandfather said to me, I want you to become a bank manager. I was doing accounting and finance. I found it so boring. Even done a little work experience in my dad's accountancy, where he's accountant, had his shop, and I just kept looking at the time, inputting data, looking at the time, thinking it's lunchtime and it's only 9:10. When you walk out at 9 o'clock, and I went, I do not want to do this. It's like watching paint dry, and I'm one of them people who likes change, and so as soon as you clock the game, you want to play a new game, not play the same game. So I'd finish this pile of work, and I'd be like, here you go, Mr. Ondia, I've done that. And he goes, great. All this dust, and he goes, get on with this one. I was like, this is like a never-ending piece of string. This ain't me. So when my granddad said go and become a bank manager, I thought that's exactly what I'm going to do. Someone on social media right now, his name's Emmanuel Asuko. He's the
he was
financial.
Here only last month, I think.
Sure. So me and him went to university together. So I asked him. I said, Emmanuel, I want a job in the bank. I know you're a financial advisor there. He was one of the youngest financial advisors, and he goes, yeah, Sean. Here's the number. They're going to ask you these questions. Let's go for it. And so he actually helped me out. Didn't know 20 years down the line we'll still be where we are, and we still know each other, and we're around the same sort of people. But that's good energy, I suppose. So I did my telephone interview in February, and then by April, May, I got my in-person interview. I done a competency question, a few things, and I got the job before I even graduated. So the only condition I said, I'll take the job as long as you give me a day off for my graduation. And they said, of course we will. All of the competency questions were answered very highly by me because I used experience from school, university, down to, all the experiences of work that I'd already done from McDonald's, becoming a manager at the age of 18, so it was just like something that was very easy for me to pass that interview because it wasn't something I needed to be scared of. It was just something that I just had to showcase my experience and why I deserved this job. Became a cashier, and it was just all of a sudden like, oh my God, I've just unlocked a cheat code. I still get £200 for the weekend working in McDonald's, and now all of a sudden I'm gonna get over £1,000 into my bank account from Barclays. This is so easy. Just start saving these grands up. By the end of the 12 months, I know that's 12 grand minimum. And little did I know that once I started learning how to get leads and generate leads and ask the right questions while banking people's money, I'd get paid for that too. So, after passing probation, that went up to 1,500 quid. After getting all your leads, that was another 400 quid that I was used to like loading cars with. Now I'm getting that. And Saturday, Sunday, I'd still go to McDonald's and still earn my 100 quid on a Saturday, 100 quid on Sunday. I'd get my 800 quid from there. That was my spending money. I'd do Wednesday night at my dad's shop, and he'd give me 50 quid for my Oyster card, 37.50 to get into central London. And so everything was just had a pot. That's what I was good at, like that. My spending money could be McDonald's, and then a little bit of side hustle that we talk about, working in my dad's shop for a few hours, that I could use that for my Oyster card.
This episode is sponsored by Merry Oaks Property Finance. Merry Oaks Property Finance is a finance brokerage, and we specialize in property finance for investors, developers, landlords. So anything from buy-to-let, bridging, development, commercial, HMOs, short-lets, hotels, the whole 9 yards, we can support you on whatever funding requirement that you need. If you have a funding requirement, please do reach out to us in the show notes. and I hope to hear from you soon. Now, back to the episode.
On top of that, you believe it or not, call me cheapskate or whatever, I used to get this Tupperware, and I just used to, whatever was made the night before, used to put that in the Tupperware and bring that for my lunch. So I didn't want to be spending like £10 on my Pret or KFC like everybody else. Was a little bit jealous when they brought their little bags in, but they'd always be like, that smells good, what have you made today, or what have you got? So I just was thinking, this is just simple, keep my expenses low, earn as much money with the time that I have, forget all of this 9 to 5 rule and weekends off, and save money. And I always knew that all I wanted to do was just buy a house. I thought that was a big feat. Like, you know, my dad said that when he came into this country, he had to sleep on the floor with his 3 brothers, mum and dad. And I was like, just buying their house was an achievement. So for me, it was like, how can I make the family proud? Just buy yourself a house. And literally, right place, right time, right circumstances, and right choices. I could have chose to sleep in my bed and just spend my money like most people do. I could have chose to take a gap year and have fun first, you know, but I decided to work hard right from the set-go, right after the financial crash, and I was able to save up for my first house at 21. The mortgage broker was desperate to sell his house at 180,000, went down to 160. Me being the guy I am and just really didn't care, I was like, look, 140 or nothing. And 2 months later, he goes, I'm ready to sell it for 140, purely because of my negotiation skills. I said, how much is your mortgage? He said, 100 grand. I said, how much do you need for your next property? He said, I need 40 grand. I said, so there you go. I'll buy it off for 140. He goes, no, I need a little, some on expenses and this. I said, look, if you really want to sell this house, I'm prepared to buy it at 140, and that's how I did the deal. I got a 40,000 under market value. I bought in the recession when everybody was scared and fearful, purely because I was like, my mortgage is going to be 500 quid. I'm going to rent it for £1,000 a month. I'll make £500 extra a month. That's £6,000 for the year. It's a no-brainer. And here's the thing I had to fall back on. I could afford that mortgage even if it was empty, like my work. Like, I was so disciplined, so I couldn't fail. And I just rinsed and repeated that. I have lived that same lifestyle from 21 to 27, and that's what led me to become a millionaire at 26. I just rinsed and repeated it, still taking that food from home. And like, I don't know if you've read a book called The Alchemist, when
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah, and they go to the castle, and he says, you know, take this spoon of oil and walk around and see if you can balance the object in hand. And then he comes back and he goes, right, I can see you got the oil there. Did you check out my lovely paintings, the gardens? And he goes, oh no, let me go back. And then he comes back and there's no oil. Life is all about balance. You've got to balance everything. And I was able to balance and discipline the property and assets around my job. And at the same time, I was very concentrated on my job in hand. This job wasn't just a £20,000 job. It became a £70,000 job for me by the age of 23. And how did I do that? Well, I was a cashier and I started getting leads. I showed them that I had motivation. I didn't feel that my branch manager really wanted to support me. There was other people who from different demographics, you know, who were getting promoted and less qualifications than me. But I still didn't take that personally. I still worked hard. And it took my area manager, Kirstine Williamson-Gunn, who came down and go, this boy, get him off that cashier desk. He's too valuable, and get him on that podium outside because he's got good skills to talk to people. I spent 4 months there, and she put me on a Rising Stars Academy where I was in front of every single branch manager doing a presentation on You Limited, which was all about me and how I could progress and help Barclays in West End. And within 4 months, I became a personal banker. And that was selling GI, general insurances, down to mortgage referrals, down to financial planning referrals, to short-term savings, short-term loans. And within 12 months, I was number 1 in West End. And Richard Fuggle, the APM, the Area Performance Manager, came up to me and went, Sean, you're leaving your desk. And I was like, what have I done wrong? He goes, no, I want you to become one of our premier managers. So what does that mean? He goes, well, exactly the same job you're doing now, apart from where you only look after 200 clients, and they're the 200 wealthiest clients in the West End. They all earn over £1 million or have over £1 million in assets. And I was just like, right, okay. And that meant I was a B5 grade. My basic salary went up, And my bonuses went up because I was playing with bigger numbers. I went to the flagship branch in Piccadilly Circus, where the Sanyo Science is. It's actually closed down now, that bank. But I was on the top floor. We had the top offices. I regularly used to go to IOD clubs, Institution of Directors clubs. I used to go RAC clubs. Mr. Cornwall used to take me out to squash and a private meal. And I just couldn't believe it that the boy from the hood in East London, the fat boy, by age of 23, I'm around some of the highest performing. And all I did was just look at how they run their life and just started using that as like my mentorship in a way. And these people loved me so much because I do all of the things that other people weren't prepared to do. Close all of their shitty accounts, close the rubbish that nobody wanted to do all this service in. They said, oh, how long does a check take to clear? A lot of the bankers didn't know and go, oh, well, let me go and ask. I knew straight away because I was a cashier that takes 3 to 5 working days. And all of the little nitty gritties that just showed that this guy is a little superstar. And when I told them I also own property, they go, at this young age, they actually trusted me. I used to tell them about my dad owns a business, and they were just like, what a superstar. Like, I think, that authenticity, that hard work, them hours, you can't make that shit up, and when you're faking it till you're making, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm this person, and you show any arrogance, people feel that sort of stuff, and it might not affect you there and then, but going forward in the future. So all that meant was instead of 1,000, 1,500, I started saving between £3,000 to £4,000 a month because I was still living that lifestyle of just very minimal income. Did I still have a life at a young age? Yeah, I did. On a Friday night, my guys' friends used to want to go to the pub. Yeah, I'd buy the first round. You'll have a couple of drinks and all right, 9, 10 o'clock, I'm off. You had a crazy night once in a while, awards evening and stuff like that. I went to McDonald's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd finish by 4 o'clock, and then me and my mates would go out till about 7, 8 o'clock, or go home, get changed, and we'll go out, go clubbing or something. Like I've still had that lifestyle. I just was disciplined to get up for work. So people go, "Oh, you didn't have a lifestyle. I would never sacrifice my life for what you've done." No, I did both, mate, because I had that energy. Do you know what I mean? So life is all about balance, and it's all about what you want. And I wanted it all. I wanted to have fun, so I did that with my friends. I wanted to work hard, and I did that. I wanted to save money, have property, and I did that. And did I ever feel that? Did any of these traumas ever come back to me? Yeah, it did. So at the age of 27, I left the bank. A builder messed me up on one of my properties. It was a 1.5 bedroom house that nobody wanted. It was 197,000. I remember that in Stratford. Try and get that now. Go and look at prices in Stratford E15. I did a double story side extension, turned it into a 6 bedroom HMO. Today's worth roughly around about 800,000. So it's a brilliant, phenomenal deal that I got done. But at the time, the builder didn't want to finish the job. I kept giving him $4,000 for the roof, and I kept coming after 2 weeks. It wasn't done. He goes, I need more money. No. And I didn't know how to run these contracts. I was like in work, and I said to work, I need a career break. And they were shocked, like, you're right at the top of the leaderboard. You're doing great. And I went, no, I need to take some time off. And I did that. My granddad passed away roughly around the same time as, my dad needed some help at the shop. I said I'd help him. Money wasn't everything. And I went into this building site and I said, shit, what the hell am I going to do here? I don't know where anything starts, finishes, what electrics, what plumbing. And one of the builders, Imran, sadly passed away in COVID now, but he said to me, I haven't been paid. And I said, I'm really sorry. Here's my payments. I've been paying the main contractor. If you want a job, you're welcome to work with me, and I'll pay you going forward. Again, calling his bluff. In my head, I'm thinking he's the only one who knows what's bloody going on in this place. And he goes, that's fine. I need 2 things. I said, what do you need? He goes, I need a labourer and I need material. I said, let's start then. And he goes, where's my labourer? I said, you're looking at him. So I swapped my shirt and tie for a shovel, and anything he wanted to, down to a chop saw. I said, show me how to use it. Show me how to use the jigsaw, cutting flooring. Show me how to, how the consistency of the muck that you need, 4 buckets of sand, half a cement, some liquidizer, right? Is that the right consistency? How do you like it? Everything down to a T. I got that for him. And whenever he needed material, I'd just nick my dad's van from the shop. And I used to put all the 2x4 timbers, whether it's treated, non-treated, the screws, everything. And it was just like a masterclass in everything that I needed to know without doing the specialist things. So I wasn't going to learn plastering. I'd put the first coat on, just to get it on to save him that time. That would be another day. But I'd get him to straighten it. I wasn't going to learn how to do the nitty gritty. I was just trying to project manage
or
it.
the electrics or the
Exactly.
but
Exactly. With electrics, I'll just make the pivot holes, and I used to run all the wiring and go, "There's your wiring. Can you connect it up now?" And he'd be like, "You've done that already." In my head, I was like, "Time is money. I need to save money." Or I'll work on. He goes, "It's 7, 8 o'clock." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to carry on working until I finish this because I've got a target in my head." And once I finished that, there was another planning permission that I got on the first house that I bought for 140,000, 6x6 meter extension. Yeah, it ended up costing me 38,000, and I started putting that BRRR. So anybody who does BRRR, buy, refurbish, rent, refinance, that strategy for me between 2011 to 2017 built most of my wealth because I had a few factors that helped me, which was the market conditions. We weren't in a recession no more. We came out of recession. There was low interest rates, which really helped me. I cut my building cost by a third. So £120,000 projects were costing me between 30 to 35,000. I learned how to do loft conversions, rear extensions, first floor extensions. I learned how to work with building control, how to read building regulation, architect drawings, and it gave me this real holistic sort of intuition about what to do, when to do. It gave me that ability that if I went to view a property, I knew if it was the right price that I'm buying out. I knew with my banking skills what my mortgage was going to be in a second. I knew how much things would cost me from a builder's point of view and what the rental market was. So I don't need a second or a third viewing or a fourth one where that property would have been sold by then. Within 30 minutes, I'd say, yep, offer accepted, yeah, let's go with it and let's just do it. I learned the whole refinancing, how to get money without paying any tax, all legal, and how to get money and extract it out of a property and put a down payment deposit on another property as well. So I just became a master of that craft on that. And talking about the mental health sort of side of things, what happens when that 13-year-old boy only wants to become a millionaire and then he sits down with his accountant at the age of 26, 13 years on, and he goes, "Well, Sean, 250, 300, 250, right, you've become a millionaire." And then you think, right, now what? What am I worth? What is this all about? I've clocked the game. Why am I existing? Like, you go through that and you think about Fat Boy and are people still judging me? Am I still that person? And so I just started training in the gym really, really hard, and I just ended up competing on stage. So in front of 300-400 people in Watford, I got up on stage all fully tanned, fully six-packed, and I just wanted to show that I'm enough and I'm not a fat boy. And I posted that on my Facebook profile. Go, there you go. There's not. And all the bullies came back and go, "Oh, how did you do that?" And I was like, "You."
Thanks for the motivation.
Yeah, you gave that motivation. But at the same time, like, you realize that life isn't just about money and all these little competitions about I've earned this and I've got this and I've got that. It's about you. Who are you when everything's all stripped back? And ultimately, I'm just a real honest, hardworking person who just wants to make my parents proud. It's all about legacy, really. And what am I going to leave as an example to my children? I've recently just had my mum's funeral, and I had to get up in front of about 300 people and do a speech under the circumstances. 39 years we lived together.
Your mum passed away recently?
My mum passed away on the 28th of July. It was a very, very traumatic time for the whole family, including myself. Did everything, every single last thing to try and keep my mum alive. She got diagnosed 2 years ago with stomach cancer. And when we got the results, it was already stage 4. So there was nothing you could do. It was from a gene called a CDH1 gene, which you have these 2 genes in your stomach, and one of them starts reprogramming your cells in your stomach. So it's called diffused, and it starts just it's basically a type of cancer, and it already broke the stomach lining, which means it's gone into the fat tissue, which then means that it's stage 4. So no matter what you do, you can't get rid of it. It can't be cut out. Had it just stayed in the stomach, you would have just removed your stomach, and from your esophagus to your small intestine just gets fused together, and people can live like that healthily. They can just have to have 5 small meals a day. Wasn't given that option. First year, she went through all these tablets, heard her vomiting, had to support, be there. I couldn't, I was called to speaking events. 6 weeks time, I said I can't commit to that. I was called on to other podcasts, in 3-4 weeks time, I said my mum might have an appointment and I have to be there. So that's where integrity comes out. Every time mum goes, Sean, my appointment's coming on Monday the 23rd, 11 o'clock. I said, Mum, but I'll be there. Like, I'll just be there. And she'll be waiting, sitting down in her big coat. And I'd just be sitting there and going, is Dr. Galindo ready for us today? And every time you had to go into that meeting, it was just a meeting where, what is he going to tell us this time? You know, what's the scan saying? Has that cancer spread more? Has it been pushed back with the chemotherapy that we've been doing? What's her blood saying? Her white blood cells. I had to learn about what PET scans were, what endoscopies were, what all sorts of tests and examinations, something that I've never had to ever look at or even think about in my life. And even down to seeing the hair loss, you know, the weight loss, you know, and telling her everything's going to be okay, Mum, when really deep down you think, what's going on and how am I going to... Like 2 years ago, my life was fine. Anyone shouldn't have to be going through this. And then when it came to, hey, we need palliative care, and palliative care is end of life, it was like really shakes you up. Nothing can prepare you for these things. And then researching a doctor in Germany and flying her to Germany, and first time she started being wheelchair bound. This is a very healthy woman, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, not a bad diet, always been a size 8 to 10, and all of a sudden pushing around in a wheelchair, and you just think, what's going on? And then speaking to Eurostar and getting, you know, a companion ticket for £39 and seeing how that all works, and getting ramps organised, and then Deutsche Bahn, which is the German line, and then seeing a professor out there, and then seeing how he has to go through a different vein and how he's helped other people. It was just like a whole different side of life that's not about money, but it was still another challenge on how do I keep my mum alive. And there's certain things are just not in your hands, and you can't control it. You can't push cancer back when it's gone to a certain stage. You feel responsible. Should I have spotted it earlier? Was it my fault? Did I do something wrong? Was it down to stress? Was it down to, you know, too much sugar? Like, you start going down a whole rabbit hole.
I can tell it's all quite raw because it's only recently that she passed away. It's about a month from the time of recording.
It's a month yesterday, yeah.
You seem like a really positive, motivated person. And some people, through adversity, they crumble. Snowflakes, they melt. However, the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got diamonds, which under immense pressure become this very, very rare gem that sparkle and shine and become useful. Through your mum and dad, or certainly through your family upbringing, do you think that's helped you? The stories of your dad when you said that they slept on the floor, that seemed to have motivated you rather than made you crumble.
Absolutely. I mean,
why is that though? What do you think that it was because they led it with love as well? There was a lot of like unconditional love, and that's nurtured you.
Absolutely. I mean, even though they didn't have much, they tried to always give us kids the best. You know, even if that was just like a quick hot pot just made, even if it was just Mum, I'm home, and within 5 minutes you'll rustle your best meal up and it will be hot, fresh and delicious. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm a prince. She treats me like a king. Like, I can do anything because my mum is there, you know. My mum went through a lot of hardship as well. Born in Birmingham, you know, 11 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
You know, there was a pecking order. And even the stories I heard from my uncles, my uncles be like, son, before you, there was us. Yeah. And she used to pick us up from school and have our favorite bag of sweets with us, you know, like, and it's like, oh, she was always that person. She would always give you her last penny. You know, she was always the one who, even if she was late getting a train, she'd stop, open a purse and give a couple of quid to somebody who needed it. You know, her sisters would be like, they could snatch your wallet. And she goes, no, God's protecting me. You know, she was...
It's a great philosophy of these things. I always say, like, it's nice to be nice. Good things happen to good people, and what goes around comes around. And if you can just afford a little bit of time, attention, resource, whether it be money or food or whatever, I always believe in that kind of karma where good things happen. And you sound like... So, correct me if I'm wrong, at one point you were working in the shop at Barclays and at McDonald's.
Yes.
That is incredible. There's not many people, especially at that age, they can also then balance to go out and, you definitely had some natural energy there, because, teenagers are famous for just wanting to sleep in and lie in. So even if you do get a day's work in, you probably go out, you're knackered by the next day, and you want to sleep in on the weekend, and that's generally the culture, I think, as well. So
could be, but that male presence in the household is very, very key. This is actually condemning all the single mums out there who are doing a mother's role and a father's role. But when I tried to go to sleep on my day off, I heard my dad calling my name and said, "What's he doing at 12 o'clock in bed?" I tried it once or twice. Get him up now. Get up. If you're going to be in my house, you're going to live out my rules. But I've got a day off, Dad. I don't care. Get in the gym.
Well,
and that's what it was. It was like, you in my house, you're getting up at 9, go to the gym, and once you come back at 12, then go to sleep if you want to. But he already knew at that time you got too much energy. You're already up. And so that discipline, my mum couldn't. My mum had love. She could tell me to do it. Go on, Sham, please do it for me. Well, Dad, there was no compromise. You do it or get out. And as soon as you started working, you know what I mean? It was like 400 quid for food shopping, or you can leave. It's up to you. Where do you want it? Go and pay bills for somebody else.
And you've touched on a lot of the things that I want to kind of ask you in terms of how to scale to 10 plus million, but it's the buy, rent, refurbish, refinance thing, the BRRR that you did. Also catching a riding wave as well. That's always helpful, no doubt about it. And these things go in waves. So if you miss one, it's not like, Sean was lucky. It's like, just try and catch the next one. It's time in the market, not timing of the market. And then you mentioned as well, like, sometimes people are scared of certainly getting involved in the first instance or scaling. And one of the questions that I had for you is like, one of the biggest horrors that you've had? I mean, you touched on one where you were paying a builder just because he was asking you for the money rather than for works completed on site, which is how you're supposed to do it. Have you ever had anything else happen, or is that probably the biggest nightmare that you faced? Of
course. So on that same property, I built that to be a HMO, and I did all the alarm systems, and then my heart got in the way instead of my brain. Like, I started putting LED lights and real wood flooring and like, proper nice high-tech kitchen, and I started putting sinks in every room, and just went to a totally different level. And I'm just thinking to myself, why did I do that? Like, spend about 15-20 grand over budget just because I wanted to look nice. And that's okay if you're going to flip a house and you're going to sell a house. But if you're going to rent a house, someone's just going to trash that house. But anyway, I rented this house and I did it room by room. I had 4 rooms upstairs, 2 lounges downstairs, converted them into bedrooms, then I had a kitchen, diner. I put a big shed in the back, insulated it. I made it into a games room. And unfortunately, after 2 years, I had somebody called enforcement knocking on the door.
Oh, sugar.
And they was like, "We've been told this is a HMO." And I said, "Yes, it is." They go, "You're not allowed to." And I was like, "Why not? They've got it down the road." And they said, "This is now an Article 4. So unless you can prove this has been done 2 years ago." And I was like, "No, it's only been done about 1.5 years." So I literally just missed out on the cut-off point. And they just said to me, "You need to shut this down." And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? I've got a loan on this property. I've taken out further advance to do the building works. At that time, the property value wasn't 800,000. It was more like 400,000. And I have to go to a single dwelling house. And I had to do that for 1.5 years. And sometimes you just got to stick on and ride the wave. I could have sold it. I could have said, this is not for me. And I kept hold of it. And I still concentrated on my other properties. But then what I ended up doing is I found somebody who wanted to do a care home and said, "I want a property like yours." And so we had to go through some planning permission.
Okay.
And he found a planning permission called C3B. So it's not a C3 single dwelling house. It's a subsection where people with a common interest can live together. He applied for it. I gave him a rent break for 3 months, which was nearly a 10 grand loss for me. And he got it through. And instead of giving me the market rent of about 2.5 grand, he gave me 4 grand, so £1,500 more. I gave him a lease in return, and all of a sudden I overcame that issue and problem. And so it's all about going, that door's closed, what doors are open? how can I make this work? And sometimes it's not there and then. It could be a year, 2 years, or 3 years down the line. But one thing I learned of my granddad was, if you buy something, never sell it.
Yeah, my dad says the same thing. With the caveat, if you're going to sell, make sure you buy something else with the money. But ideally, never sell. Because you get capital gains and all that sort of stuff. To just like ideally pull out the money and then keep going again. The C3B, is that? Do you know if that's permitted development or is that?
That's under PD, yes.
That's under PD, you can get that.
It's under PD, but the problem now is Ofsted, who regulate these properties, are not accepting C3B anymore. They want you to do a C2. And unfortunately, that C2 is a very, very hard planning to get through, because there's this big blanket over London property boroughs saying that we only want more community housing. So they keep trumping you. So the last 5 planning permissions have all been declined, and I've tried to appeal, go to the planning inspectorate, and it keep hitting a dead end wall. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going, because it's just another hurdle until you get there. Because I'm now going into that space of, I've got the right partners, right infrastructure, right amount of capital to kit out these places, because I want to help children like that bullied kid that I was at one stage, and help that kid to make sure they've got enough confidence to go back into society, whether they've had bad parenting, that I want to be that parent for them, or have the right infrastructure to create that environment that they can flourish just like I did,
Makes sense. When it comes to investment, property investment development, there are different types of investors and developers. I always find there are ones that are very hands-on in the development, and that could be things similar to what you did. Literally get your hands dirty and learn everything. I remember I was about to do that. I'm not great on site. I started out as an estate agent, and now in finance, I'm better in the office than I am with spreadsheets than I am on site. But I did want to learn at one point, and I even told my brother. I said, I'm gonna get a apprenticeship as a plasterer or something. I'm just gonna learn one of the trades. I probably should have done what you did, which is just shadowed and just been on site and learned a little bit of everything. But I just picked that one. And anyway, both my mum, my dad and my brother laughed at me. They said, with these risks, you're going to do plastering. Forget about it, man. Stick with the spreadsheets. And then there's other ones that are more paper pushers, which is the ones that do land and planning, for example. They do title splits. They might do short leases or something in that sort of... if you were to be able to pick one or the other, are you more of a hands-on developer in terms of get your hands dirty developer, or do you prefer the kind of more the paper pushing?
It's a very difficult one, because I'm a very lazy person, but I'm very smart at the same time. And you're going to see that across when I publish my book by the end of this year.
You're a very lazy person.
I'm a very, very lazy. I'm very lazy. I just chose the smartest way. Here's an example. I used to go to Birmingham for deliveries when I used to work in the cash and carries, just to pump truck all the stuff off. But the lazy bit was, on the way there, I just used to sleep on this bed above the driver, and I used to sleep there for 3 hours on the way there and the 3 hours on the way back. So that was getting paid for sleeping, But the smart bit was, all right, nobody wants to get up at 3 a.m. and everyone wants to start at 5. I would just ride my bike at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I'm here. Nobody else wanted to wake up. I'm ready. And I go straight above and go to sleep. So I was getting paid for sleeping, but I just had to sacrifice them 2 minutes of, I can't get out of bed. I've always chose that way. And when it comes to building work, I was the labourer at one stage, mixing muck and, ripping properties apart. But now, because I know what it entails and how long it takes, I employ 2-3 boys and say, start stripping up. And I'll be back at lunchtime and see how far you've got, and if it's up to speed or not. And then I know when to get my electricians and plasterers in, because I know what order goes in what I can do at the same time. I know when to get my plumbers in, what flooring I need, when I need to order my kitchen. Because I've been through all of this myself, I'm very good at project managing. Because I have a good holistic view on planning, I really know what can be approved, what can't be, who the best people, who's got the town planning certificate, who's got good links, who to apply for. But could I be sitting there doing an application? I hate that. I've got good brokers where I just go, can you get your PA to just ask me the questions and fill it in for me? Because I'm not very academic at all. I can't concentrate. I don't know if that's my ADHD or anything of that nature. I just can't concentrate for very long. And I'm like, can you just hold my hand with this? I'll just tell you, I want that. You know, how do we get that? And the more you go up the pecking order, you earn more. That same expense that was your whole life savings at one point is now just one of the payments that you get across 30 other payments. And now you think, yeah, I can afford that expense because I've got all this other money coming in, and now it's like a portfolio, and you just keep moving up. And what feels right, what doesn't feel too heavy, what's now a tax deductible, what's going to lower my tax and give me less stress, what's not going to affect my life. That's how I run things, you know. So I just keep moving, and where I am today is not where I'm going to be next year or the year after. You know, I'm 39 today. I believe by 45, I might have literally had enough. You know, I've got international properties now in Dubai. I've got, you know, projects here in the UK. I've got, you know, places that I'm splitting. I've still got HMOs. I bought a pub, free uppers, you know, going to be adding stuff on that. There's loads of stuff in the pipeline. There's loads of specialists we work with. You know, I've never flipped properties, but I'm now looking at that sort of strategy where we can buy things that nobody else can afford at 900,000, but I have that sort of money to deploy, but end value is 2.5 million. So if you can get a good team of builders, 300,000-400,000 of some of these very good Albanian builders, you give them what they want. It costs you 1.5. You do your calculations that what if the market turned down, you know, 15%? What if
stress test it basically
exactly
up and down,
to the max, 10% on building costs on top of it. And does it still make 300 grand? Yeah, it does. Then let's go for it, you know, like, and then that's how you please your investors, how you please the bridging lenders, etc., of that sort of nature, to say, I've got a whole bunch of skills, a whole network. Why would I just say the shop's closed now? Just all you got to do is very good at project managing. And when you know the right agents and they have the right clients waiting for these properties to come onto the market, then you go, there's my exit strategy too. So it's all about not just one thing, about multiple things. You know, something always has to be going off in your business, whether that's international real estate, other people wanting to do what you want to do, flipping, portfolio, whether me giving my knowledge on site visits, on my educational arm, whether it's spreading the good knowledge and giving back like you are today. Like, this message today, this podcast today, it's going to help somebody out.
Absolutely.
There. It's going to be somebody who's down at the dumps or somebody who's reached a dead in their property strategy and going, is this it? How long will it take? When am I going to get to that next stage that they're going to say, hey, hang on, do you know what? It's a normal layman on the podcast today who's actually made it. He doesn't look like he's got a plum in his mouth and he's done it. I'm cleverer than that. I can beat Sean Land. Go for it. You know
I mean, your name as well, Sean Land, to be in property is a pretty impressive. It was meant to be or something, hereditary.
My surname is Landa, Landa, and the branding team, when they were doing up, you know, all my brand stuff, they said, if you shorten that to Land, to take the A off, that got really well with. I said, yeah, let's do it. You know, everything you got to think about it. Never get attached. Your name is not even yours at the end of the day. One day we're all going to be turned into dust. You know, last Sunday I was just pouring my mum's ashes into the water and I see it just fly away and I thought, wow. A month ago I was sitting with her, holding her hand, and today you're just dust, and that's what life ends up being. So what is she being remembered for? She got remembered for the person she was, the children she raised, her grandchildren who were playing the piano, public speak and singing on her funeral ceremony. Forget the children, the grandchildren were doing that. The whole room understood what kind of love that woman poured into all of these children and what sort of human she's bringing into the world. That's legacy, you know?
Amazing. You mentioned using investors. Do you work with investors regularly?
This is a very new space to me because I've normally used a lot of my own money. I'm very old school. I refinance, keep money in a pot, and I am the investor. I have sort of, you know, been in a few meetings now where investors are going, what do you have for me? But because I've never looked at that, I don't have anything for them. But just like today, we might meet somebody and there's a few other people in the pipeline. They are now coming together. So buyers and sellers are coming to me. I feel like a online estate agent that in a day can connect two dots because of the branding that's gone out there.
Yeah.
So it's something that will come up, and I'm going to take my time with it because it's very important to not spoil your brand over a shiny penny.
Yeah, agree.
I could make 100 grand in a day, in a week. I promise you, I could clear £1 million in side hustle if I wanted to, you know, with that network, with that knowledge, with know what I'm looking for. But can I confidently say I can execute it? No. So why would I do it? Why would I pass on risks that I wasn't able to take on myself? I have to do it with the authenticity that I've done it for myself. When I look back on deals, every single deal's made money that I've doubted, but I need to 100% convictively saying I will not lose anybody any money, you know, or I'd be ready to step in to have the funds myself to take that loss on and make sure no one else does, because it's very important that over 100 grand or even £1 million, it wouldn't change my life.
Did we hear about these guys? I mean, they become insta famous and all that, and then they might do a course and they put investments in front of people, or they get involved, or they borrow money from them, and then it goes wrong. I'm always a bit torn as to how that stuff should work, as long as there's not something like completely. Obviously, you've got things like which are a rip off and a con, like over promising grossly and then not delivering. That's completely different. But if you get somebody involved in something and you say, hey, look, this is going to be a 10-20% return on your money, and these are the security, and with best effort it doesn't go well, is it really your responsibility to pay them back from your own pocket? Because at the end of the day, they're putting their money up in a position of risk, so they get a return. There's always going to be some sort of risk, or usually there is, you know, right? Typically. So I love what you're saying, and I would probably invest with you because of that. You're basically saying there's no risk because you're going to. But do you think it's really necessary for anybody else that's watching this thinking, you know, I don't have all the money and I do need to work with investors, and I can't promise that. Do I still have a chance of getting investment?
Yeah, so you just got to make sure your education's up to the level where you know you're comfortable with all the rules of the game, really.
Yeah.
So if there is a chance for you to make a loss, are you happy with that loss? Can you take that loss on? If it doesn't cross you, then go for it. You know, at the end of the day, everything in life is a risk. You know, everything, you know, we could walk outside of our door and get hit by a bus. Everything's a risk, you know. I've seen somebody, I just went to view a big property for 1.6 million yesterday, and I said, wasn't this owned by these two brothers? And they said, yeah, one of them just passed away in the shop. Oh, how? And it caught it on the CCTV camera that he was working on the laptop, and he just literally went, boom, dead. God. So everything's a risk in life, you know. So it depends about the risk and reward. The more risk you're going to take, the more reward you're going to get. Like buying a place with no planning permission that nobody else can see, you know, or take on that loss. And it could go two ways. You could secure planning that can get you 121 flats on it, and all of a sudden that was the best decision you ever made and made £14 million profit. Or it might not get nothing at all and says you're around these areas and we're not going to lift the green belt or XYZ, and it was the worst investment you could have made and lost 300-400 grand of your money. But it's all about risk and reward. And so understand the game, do your research, talk to the right people. And there's a lot of people you can invest with out there. Do your due diligence, find out who these people are, find out, are they investing their own money, who else are the other investors, and make a decision on that. You know, that I cannot make a decision for anybody, but and everyone's got a risk spectrum. I'm very risk averse, so I will only do certain things. Some people are risk takers and they'll be even more richer than me.
That's fair. I mean, when it comes to making these decisions, how do you balance like economic analysis and the macros, you know, and the macro economy and what's going on in politics and global wars and stuff versus street level, you know, hey, that's a good house. I know that house. Yeah. I know people are going to live in it. Do you look at the bigger picture? Because I've actually come across a funny mix. I'd say most of the investors that I work with, or that I know, that I speak to, they do look at the macro side, but they don't get totally bogged down on it. But there are a bunch of them that also just like completely ignore it, and they're just like, look, no, I kind of know what's going on here. I don't think anything's going to change in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And and I'm gonna go for it.
If you think nothing's going to change going forward, you're delusional. Every sort of war throughout history has had a change, different bloodlines,
Yeah.
different people taking over England, different, armies taking over Europe. There's always been conquering in the world, and the world will carry on doing that. At the year 3000, this will be like a joke to most people. AI is taking over, technology taking over, the labor force is being taken over, so everything is changing. But the fact is that everybody needs a roof over their head to live in, and that's never going to change. We are on an island. Are the rules going to become harder? Yes, they will. Are expenses going to go up? Yes, they are. We just had, Rachel Reeves talking about NI, national insurance on your property,
Crazy.
Money, the thing is, look, at the end of the day, if you're going to make money, you're going to pay tax. So it's a good problem at the end of the day. So
It's like, give me a massive tax bill. It means you've done all right.
So just go and buy more. Buy so many that it doesn't make a difference, that your profit level's there, that if they want that and that, you still got most of it. You're still paying yourself tax-free of 12,570 at the time today. You're still paying yourself 8.5% dividends. You're still got, your partners helping you in the business. They get a share of that. And that's what I concentrate on, and what's coming into my pot. And can I send my 3 kids to private school? Can I support, my family? Do I have a nice car? Can I get on my nice holidays? And as long as I can do them things, I'm happy. The rest, I'm just working for my business, and call it work. This is fun, enjoyment for me. I love going to see a new property.
It's like a game, isn't it?
It's a game. I love this game. I love meeting people. It's a people business, man. People like you. They'll give you a good deal. People trust you. They come and do some education with you. Like many a times I've had like 35 people on a site visit. Do you know what pleasure that gives me? Wearing
I'd love to come to one of those.
Yeah, you really should. Which we actually did one 2 weeks ago at the 121 flats just down the road, and we looked how that was done on the PD. It was a site bought for 5 million. 3 million was on bridging. It was only 2 million of his own money, 11 million development finance, and the sort of level that the developer has done it in terms of future proofing, down to, hey, no one's going to see these little breakers for 100 quid. The other ones cost £1, these cost 100 quid. But this shuts off any fire within milliseconds on the plug sockets. Okay, cool. This is a ventilation system that costs 2,500 per flat. So it's a massive cost at the end. But this automatically regulates all of the air in the property, whether a window's opened or not. So there's never going to be any mold or damp. Here's a fire sprinkler system that costs £1,500 per flat. But guess what? Any place in the whole of Europe that's ever caught fire that had a sprinkler system never burnt down. And no one died. So the level of sort of integrity is done this. It's, admirable. Like, it's like, wow, people are doing this, with a real sort of empathy of who's the end user, not just about how much profit I can make. Because he could have made about another 2-3 million more in profit if he eradicated some of this. And then he shows me, hey, there's this airspace that we're building on top. Hey, there's a car park here that I can put a wood structure with 2 floors. And this is going to, increase my GDP even more. And you're just like, wow, this is inspirational. And then they look at you and go, thank you for running what you have. I see you have one thing, and that's attention. You have a very good brand. You get a lot of attention. How can we work together? How do we get a pool of investors together? And would you want to invest with me? I said, absolutely. If I'm seeing what you're doing firsthand, I'm seeing all of these top lenders working around you and doing their content around your site. I want to work with that person, that's enough for me as well. So, and that's what I bring. I share these people with normal people who are learning. I'm not here to sell you a £10,000 course in a little classroom like that. You don't even know what you're looking at when you get there physically. I'm taking you on site for a fraction, not even 100 quid. To meet the right people, meet other students like you, and learn. Like, come on, like, I want to be in that room.
I'll be there for that next one. In terms of the finding deals or money debate, what comes first?
What do you mean finding money?
So some people say, if you got the money, you'll find the deals. Some people say, well, no, if you find the deal, then you'll find the money.
Sure. I mean,
Do you have a take on that?
well, for the first like 10, 15 years, I didn't want to even network. And maybe that was a wrong thing to do. But I wanted to bring something to the table before. I didn't want to like say, hi, Sam, I can buy anything. I can do this. I'm going to use your bridging lending company. And I didn't even have a pot to piss in. Like, how's that going to feel for you when you go, oh, Sean, when you're going to come for some business? And I'll be like, well, I ain't got that 50 grand. So how am I going to borrow anything off you? Like, I just think that's like not authentic. I think you got to think about the other person, and then in a very short space of time, a year or two, you'll be like, he's just a talker. He's talking rubbish. Don't even pick up his call. And then when I do need you, you'll be like, no, he's just a talker. So I think your brand is very, very important. So at the start, I think you got to work very hard to do a few things yourself. Once you have a few things, like now, my position now, I would look at something a bit bigger because I know I could put on my social media, guys, I found a fantastic deal.
Yeah.
We're going to get X, Y, Z. We need to get this pool of money. Contact me now. And I swear, if I put that out, I know I'll get 10, 20 people coming up to me. There's some very, very large estate agents that got very big clients who are just tapping into me and saying, what can we do? How can we build a fund here? We've got 30 million. How can we deploy this? How can we buy a few floors? How can we go through some long-term, short-term, and some flipping strategy? How do we create a mixed bundle? Price per square footage? Like, my knowledge is getting out of my comfort zone where I'm going, I have to go and learn this now, but I'm still being coachable, coming up to 40.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to help other people, and we're trying to connect deals together. So I think there's no wrong or right answer with that one. It's just timing. You just got to be at the right time. Once you've been there, done there, got the t-shirt yourself, and you've got something to prove, then at the same time, you can then go, look, I'm this person and I got that. Am I a credible person? Because that's when bridging lending will be available to you, and other lending like development finance where you go, I can do this job, here's my track record. Then they go, yeah, give him it, and give him at a good rate as well, you know, not just at 1%, you might get a 0.8%, you know, like that sort of
absolutely. I mean, in terms of finding money or deals, you said, going back to the beginning, for you personally, is it easier for you to find deals or money?
Easier for me, probably.
What do you have an abundance of more? So do you have more deals than you've got access to money, or more access to money than you got deals?
Probably money. A lot of people come with me and say, I got 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. How do we get involved? And I'm now starting to open my hand to say, guys, I'm looking for deals. So now there's a few agents go, I get probates all the time, you know. Even, do you know what, this is a bit bad, but even when I went to the funeral parlour and sorting out my mum's sort of funeral, the horse and carts and everything, and then the lady was just saying, oh, I've got a client to see for this probate case. And I was like, oh yeah, what do you do with the probate case? And she goes, oh yeah, I just give it to this agent or whoever needs it. And I went, well, what do they want? She goes, they just need money really, really fast because the family just wants the money. And I went, here's my card. If you ever need any help, I'm here because it's what I do, and we're like 2 streets away. And she's like, oh yeah, Sean, I'll give you a lovely gentleman. I'll help you. And it wasn't just like disrespect.
No, of course.
It was just
done in the right way. Exactly.
A lot
of this stuff comes down to what we were saying in the beginning, understanding people. They have needs. They require things. And if you can provide and satisfy that need or that requirement, then what's the big problem? This is all, it's a two-way street basically. And it's always being, they say luck is preparedness plus opportunity. So you're all, I think, with the way you're geared, as we all mostly are when we've been in property for 20 something years, you're kind of wired that way. So whenever certain things are said, you kind of open up the opportunity. But always, whatever setting you're in, it's always respectful. It's always done professionally, and that's always important. How do you find your deals, though? You mentioned agents a few times. Do you ever go direct to vendor? Do you ever look at auctions?
So some people know that I'm in the game and they go, Sean, I've got a property sale. Do you know anybody who wants to buy it? And I'm like, wow, I'm direct now. And I was like, and I look at the deal and I said, look, this ain't right for me. And I want to get you the best amount of money, but I know somebody who will. And then I just tap into an agent. I said, look, I've got this come up. Do you have any private buyers? They'll say, I've got 3 people wanting to view it today. We connect that up, and we just help that. Both sides and clients. So we'll do that. Normally a lot of agents being 20 years in the market now know me and say, Sean, I've got a cracking deal, this come up. And they know me by now. So if it ain't at least got 20 to 25% in the deal, I don't want to look at it. I'm sorry, I'm just that person in the market. When you want me to move, I can complete in a property in 7 days. I've got a legal team there, got finance team there, I've got cash in the bank there. I can move on it, but you need to make me move. Otherwise, if it's less than 20%, I'm not really going to get out of bed because it's not going to change my life. And unfortunately, for a deal source, that's the worst thing they want to hear because they want you to be motivated, but I'm not that guy. But at the same time, there's people out there saying, I want this gun. I can keep my client happy. He needs money ASAP. Go to Sean. Sean will get that done. And they might only come once or twice a year, but that's enough for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And what about in terms of geography? Do you always stick to one patch locally that you know, like, and trust? Or are you a bit more of a scattergun, kind of like, I'll just go wherever the deal is. If I see a deal, I'm in.
So it used to be just Stratford for me, E15, where Westfields has happened.
Yeah.
I then had to move to Forest Gate and then East Ham, then Plaistow, which is all around the same borough, Newham.
Yeah.
And so even now I'm going for a property which is in Newham, and instead of 600,000 is at 450, and it's got 2 flats inside, so you double bubble on the rent as well. Just whack out another loft conversion, but it's got a lawful development certificate on that to saying. So I like my patch because I know it, I understand it, but I will start venturing out a little bit soon as I see where the value is. Like, I live more into Essex, so I might be investing more around that area because I understand it. I'm not going to invest somewhere in Liverpool or Scotland. It just doesn't make any sense for me unless it's a commercial building and there's somebody with a 15-20 year lease at the end of it where it's a back-to-back and it just makes sense in terms of a number. There's no sort of point for me because it's just like watching paint dry.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I do actually. As I've gotten older, especially, I've gotten to appreciate the stuff that's more on your doorstep. Really knowing an area. I've got properties across the country, and the management of it can be a little bit extra sometimes. What's the biggest risk investors overlook in today's climate?
The costs. You've got a lot of costs that come with buying a property. This obviously the stamp duty, which may change now. There's solicitor costs. There's application fees when it comes to your lending sort of side. So people think they have enough money, and all of a sudden they're scraping every single pot just to get that asset, and then it's a slow game. That rental market is a slow game. You've got to pay your loans, you've got to pay tax, and then you're just going to get the crumbs at the end of it. You've got to realize you've got to be in this for the long term. And as you've been seeing on the news right now, taxes are going up. So you've got to know what you're letting yourself in for. So you've got to know that, is it capital appreciation? Am I doing this, that in 10 years time I'm going to sell this house to get some sort of money out of it? Am I doing it for cash flow? Because I tell you, you're not going to get any cash flow until at least about 10 years. You know what I mean? You're going to get a little 500 there, £700 change there, but to get over £10,000 sort of cash flow is going to take you a good number of years to then be sort of comfortable. So make sure you do your numbers right, because numbers are everything, and it all comes down to buying right. If you haven't bought correctly, you're going to get found out very quickly. It's not going to change in a year and a half, just like that. If you've bought dramatically wrong 30, 40, 50 grand, you're going to get found out, and it'll take you about 5-6 years just to even get back on top. So if you buy correctly within first and second year, you'll hit that profit level, and you'll start going, right, I'm glad I did this, and you'll be able to refinance and buy your second one, because money's not easy to get together at the same time. Makes sense.
And yeah, I think underestimating costs, especially when you get into development, planning and stuff, people just think that, planning application costs you like 500-600, but yeah, there's all the reports and everything else you've got to get involved in. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
If there's anything you want to do, just go and do it. And that's something by my mum, and she would say, Sean, do you want to do it? I said, yeah, mum. She goes, go and do it then. That's it. It's my mum was just the most simple soul, my angel now, and she'd always say, just go and do it. And everything you see online, my brand, my name, my developments, is all from her confidence of, just go and do it. Well, what's stopping you? And ultimately, sometimes we think too much. What do other people think of me? What if I get it wrong? What? F all of that. Just go and do it. You know what I mean? Find a way. Put a plan together. Be smart around it, but just go and do it. Say, how do I get there? Because anyone in this world that's ever got anywhere has just gone and done it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It starts with an idea in your mind, and then action follows up. And sometimes you fall, but then you pick yourself up.
It's the best thing to fall. Yeah, exactly. It's the best thing, because it teaches you what not to do next time. You won't do it again unless
they say you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your wins.
Absolutely.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Worst piece of advice. So it's not even to do with property. It's like I'm eating my healthy food, and someone quite close to me said, "Oh, I don't care about that. Like, you should eat your doner kebab and anything you want to eat, just go on and eat it and just do it because you only live once." And now these people are like, 20 years on suffering and going, "Oh, I got this problem. I got cholesterol. I got diabetes. Oh, I should have done what you've done." And I was like, you should never give that piece of advice. There's always a knock-on effect. For every action there's a reaction, so do the best you can to get the best end result. And look, 39, touch wood, I'm healthy right now, got no blood pressure, I had my heart and everything checked just a few weeks ago. Everything's all as it should be. I mean, I could drop dead tomorrow, for God's sake, I don't know yet, but I'm doing the best I can. I go gym nearly every single day. I'm a good role model to my next generation. So I just want to keep doing all of these good habits, because how you spend the first 40 years of your life and how you treat your body is then how your body would treat you for the next 40 years of your life. So if you abuse your body for the first 40 years, you're going to have problems in the next 40 years. And if you look after yourself, trust me, your body look after you too.
Great advice coming from the worst. It's funny that the good and worst advice is like, just do it. If it's the wrong thing, and there's obviously a clear thing that's wrong. Some people are not taught maybe what the difference between good and bad and wrong and right are. But obviously, hamburgers and McDonald's and fast food is not as good as having a healthy home cooked meal or some salad.
Absolutely.
Investing in yourself and investing in assets is not as good as going to the casino. So just do it, you only live once, versus just do it, you only live once. Depending on what we're talking about, the context can be good or bad advice, depending on what we're talking about. This is Core Property People. You're obviously a very successful property person. For those out there that want to get involved in property, what would you say are important personality characteristic traits that they need to have to become successful in property?
Have no ego, because there's always going to be someone who's better than you out there, and be empathetic. Money doesn't make you. We're in a big money game. Anyone who owns property's got a big number next to their name, whether that's in debt or in equity, but be humble. I've got to a very good level, but I speak to, like, my training partner. He's a DJ, he's a producer, he's your everyday man.
Cool. What kind of music?
And he does a bit of everything. He's worked with Mist and a few of them big artists and Frenzo and loads of them things, but he's a very everyday normal guy, very different to me, but we get along and we don't judge each other on money or what he does or what I do. It's just simplicity. People buy from people. Just be you. Be humble in anything you do in life. Just be honest, be real, have that integrity, because this is a long game. How many years do you get a loan for on a long term? It's normally about 25 years. That should tell you how long the game is. You can use items in this game and jump in and out as well, but ultimately you're in this long game. It's not like playing pogs in the playground and you're going to win a pog and you said F you to the other guy.
Going back to those days.
You know what I mean? But just be honest, real, integrity, have no ego, that sort of trait, because there's some of the best people in the world. You see Warren Buffett, he still talks about that same first car that he bought. And just simplicity in the ice cream he eats, and just
same office,
same everything. It's just look at what he's achieved by not saying I'm better than you. Because people who look at you end up, trust me, their ego gets crushed when someone bigger and better comes along, and then they put in their tail between their legs and they don't know where to put their face, and then people look at them and go, who are you? What are you? Like, over time, you're going to get found out. Trust me, you're going to get found out. And when you're real humble and you have that integrity and you realize that success is quiet, then you realize, wow, I want to be like that person. I want to be around that person. I want my kids to mix around with that person, that uncle, or I even want my kids to be around his kids, because I would want them to have a partner like that. That's long term. That's
absolutely. And Uncle Warren is a good role model for all of that sort of stuff. No ego, honest, long term thinking. All very, very good. Sean, I've really enjoyed this. I think you come across very sincere, very passionate. And my sincere condolences with your recent passing of your mum. I can tell that she meant a lot to you, and has helped shape a lot of the success that you've achieved. So hats off to that. Mm-hmm. If people want to reach out to you and find you, what's the best way they can contact you?
The best and easiest way is Instagram, is where I'm the most active and live. So it's Seanland_1. That's SeanLand_1. That's the main place. And I'm on all social media platforms as well. And we're growing every single day. And I'm sure people are going to see us collab on a few reels and stuff as well anyway. So I hope a lot of my audience comes over to watch this podcast, because you're giving people a platform, real honest people, you know, to show them exactly, you know, the right people to be around. And if they need some finance, you got to deal with the right people as well, and people who are not afraid, you know, of competition, and they want to do, you know, they're all about collaboration. You can see what type of person that is, and that's who you want to work with. You know, you don't want to be up against another hurdle when you're doing your lending or the biggest borrowing at a stressful time. You want to work with people who go, how can we work with you? And I can feel that sort of energy around yourself, bro.
That's very kind of you to say. We'll make sure all the links as well for your stuff is in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming all this way as well. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Sam.
Cheers.
Brilliant.